All right, hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? So back here in the career game, let's go ahead and take a look at finances, kind of see where we're at, see what we want to do this episode. Yeah, I was talking about how it's good to plan kind of your goals, and then it helps inform your play session, and then what you're working towards. So currently we have Spy Cakes and Dre Moore. I've been doing some missions. We've got a bunch of diesel. We've got 18,000 liters in there. We've got 26,000 liters over here, and we've been selling it slowly over here at the docks. I'd also like to get into some cargo work and keep doing some missions. Also, coal is on the menu. Presently, we've got a good front end loader for coal, but we're having issues with the truck being able to get through the cave. Tunnel is probably a better word. The tunnel. So at some point we'll build something for that. I want to kind of keep moving. Did some painting on the helicopter in a workshop episode. So keep moving here. One thing I think we might do is let's go eyeball some containers, and we'll see what we can make on some of these containers. And then we might use a barge and a tugboat to go over there. It's a little bit of slow work, so may not want to feel slow right away. Let's go ahead and grab a car. Let's see. How's it going there, Lambda? How are you? Just working on career here, just making some cash, and working on this Vulture helicopter is my most recent build. Gonna make a video on the dock crane there and how you can load that in with an add-on. Trying to think what I want for. Use the Patney yesterday. Let's use the Patney pickup truck. We'll just head over there. Did I just put the parking brake on? I did. Okay. So let's go check on containers, see what some of the values are on those. I don't think we have too much coal in the base here. I'd like to get on some coal work. Maybe we'll finally edit the dump truck so it can make it through the tunnel. Coal you really need to do in very large quantities. Alright, so let's see where these are headed. There's not many containers right now. We need to wait for the respawn. So, need to get out of this area, let those respawn. Alright, let's look on the map, see what we have for coal. Only have 100 coal in there, so not much. I don't feel like mining at the moment. Try to decide what I want to do. Let's go ahead and let's go sell off some more diesel. That will help. Go sell off some diesel. That will get us kind of moving a little bit with some money. We'll do some missions. So we'll spawn the helicopter, go drop that off with the module. Made some updates to the helicopter, the Vulture, to get that kind of rocking and rolling. Alright, so we'll grab a Vulture. One thing we might do real quick is play with, so we got the Vulture module here. Let's play with this vulture module right fast. And I think what we'll do here is let's go ahead and we'll actually load up the custom game. And I was thinking of working on a skid steer or a forklift for moving some modules and cargo pallets. So I think we'll do that, and then we can do more with the helicopter. So kind of, again, having some goals helps a lot. Just answer a message right fast. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Get in the custom game, just makes it a little bit easier to build. Yeah, I don't have any issues with helicopters. The biggest things is you got to build them like you would IRL. And so the biggest things, like here, let's look at my helicopter real quick. So Lambda's talking about having issues with building helicopters. Anything with, aviation is challenging for a number of reasons because you really can't be out of balance. And if you look, the biggest thing with a helicopter, that's where my center of gravity is, right there. So the center of gravity is in line with the rotor, so it's naturally balanced. And because it's naturally balanced, right, it wants to stay upright, it wants to behave itself, and you want that center of gravity below the rotor, and naturally wants to return to equilibrium. And then a gyro will help it further. The problem is you'll get people who, like if we take a bunch of battle cannon extensions, which are heavy, and we throw them on the nose, right, some people are like, oh, because there's a lot of games where you can just, like, the game fakes the center of gravity where it's supposed to be. That's not this game. So right now, the CG is way too far forward. Well, the helicopter is going to always want to pitch nose down. And so it's going to be inherently unstable, and so you're going to have unstable, and so you're going to have the rotors constantly trying to correct for this weight imbalance. And then you have a problem where your rotor only has so much pitch and angle on it, and so a big portion of your angle is just trying to keep it flying and try to keep it from pitching forward, and then now you try to pitch back and you don't have much angle left. And so the same thing with planes and helicopters here. You need to get your center of gravity at your center of lift. And so in a helicopter, that's right under the rotor blades like that. So that's a big tip for that. And then if you look, pretty much it's one block off. But one block off. But you see where the main mass of my modules is right under the center of gravity. So we lift at the center of gravity. And that's kind of the basics of of aircraft. With boats and other stuff, you can, it's got a little bit more leeway. Cars especially, if you want a car that is much less likely to spin out, you put the center of gravity forward, and it will have some negative effects like understeer, but for the most part, it will behave pretty reasonably. You start getting into issues when you have your center of gravity too far back. Well, the car wants to spin out and put the back forward. So that's a huge part of any of this is like build it like you would IRL. Use real life examples and kind of go off that. You need to get your center lift and your center of gravity. If you want a plane that pitches better, you have to have a longer tail, so you have a longer lever arm or bigger elevators. Like planes with short tails need big elevators. Planes with long tails can have smaller elevators. Let's see. All right, here's the pallet template. So ideally, I would like to get this palletized. So what I should do is just put the palette template on this. So really, this needs to only go up one. So we could knock some of the bottom out of this. Let's see what's in here. That's pretty good. I can move that up. All right. For now, let's just do this. Okay, that's good. Alright, we're gonna have problems with this, doing it this way. But, so I'm not gonna do it completely like that. So this way we can take some of the microcontrollers and the guts out of here too. So essentially this is my pallet system. And these are, they'll lock on the rails of a lot of my aircraft. And so this makes it just easier to kind of standardize that system. And I need this bumped up one. Alright, so we're going to shrink this out. So I'm using microcontrollers just to make it smaller. Or just to make a greater volume so that we can hold more liquid. That's why the microcontrollers are all in there. Just to give me more liquid volume in there. Probably want the middle one too. Alright, that's good. And I gotta get the guts in here, so that's good. We get the pallet lock there. Try to find a spot where this will fit. It fits fine there, I think. Yep. Alright, and then there was here's the panel. That can go right there. Alright, let's go ahead and plumb up the electricity of that panel. This panel shouldn't need electricity because it's flip switches, but plug it in anyway in case I want to add something that I'm not like, why is it not working? Alright. So that way this container will also work with multiple vehicles by doing it this way. Alright, good. I gotta measure out the area for this. 3 by, what are we looking at here? Three by 9, okay. And so using microcontroller is a good trick to, by using microcontrollers, you can get it so that 5 and a 4 will do. Get more volume because they essentially don't take up any space. So when you use them as walls inside of a fluid tank, you're able to carry more fluid. So that's why I'm doing this way. So it makes for a good floor here. Alright, let's make sure this holds liquid fine. It should. Now holds 6,500 liters. That's not bad. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of games that do that fake center mass stuff, and it's not really, like, it's not helpful. It really isn't. Yeah, especially, like, when people are trying to learn some of the stuff, it's like going in there and doing fake CGs really isn't helpful. It's like, you know, and most like simple games where, like, you know, say like Space Invaders was a good example of it. But like, I haven't played Brick Rigs or anything, but I assume they're doing the same thing where essentially it's like it just makes it work for you, you know, and that's problematic. It's, you don't learn anything, but it makes it easier for people who might not know these things to play the game. All right, so that's pretty good there for the new container. We'll paint it in a bit, but let's save this. All right, so that's saved, and then I pretty much know my palette, and then skid steer is gonna be hard. There's no way in hell we pick this up with full fuel in it, unless it's a bigger vehicle. There are some ways and tricks we could do it. I can't think of a pallet jack because the wheels are too big. See if we can make a pallet jack for this. Take some quick measurements. We'll build a quick pallet jack, see if that works. 11 by 7. Okay. Yeah, like Kerbal was great for kind of learning some of these things too, for to learn how to actually do center of gravity and everything else was one of the things that was cool with Kerbal is, for example, let's say I used to do a lot of SSTOs, single stage to orbits, or I'd do shuttles that would ride in the back of a straddle launcher rather, and it would go up to altitude, and then it would launch the shuttle. And so the shuttle would come back into atmosphere, and you get problems sometimes where your shuttle would try to go tail first into the atmosphere. And it made sense because when you were full of fuel, right, the center of gravity might have been at the center. But then as you burned off the fuel, which was probably in the wings, in the ones I was making, now your center of gravity shifted aftward, and now the problem is you've got too much weight in the back, and wherever the center of gravity is, it wants to be forward, just like a dart, right? So the dart, the center of gravity is towards the front, and the center of pressure is towards the back. That's why the grip part of the dart is heavy. It's that metal, and it's heavy, so the dart goes forward. If the weight was backwards and you threw the dart backwards, it would try to flip around and go forwards because it wants that center of gravity in the front. And so, like in Kerbal, you used to have to move my fuel to the forward tanks. So one way you could do it was you have forward and aft tanks, and when you're coming into land, you'd move that fuel forward. And so as you were entering the atmosphere, the front wants to stay going forward. So that was important. Let's see. How's it going, Manda? Good to see you. All right, let's see. It's like when I build cars in this game, it's important to make sure that you either get a centralized center of gravity. That's where you make for good race cars, because you can essentially turn around the center of the car, so it makes it so you can easily change direction. For a drift car, if you have the CG a little bit more towards the back, it makes it so that you can spin the back out a little bit better. If you have the CG a little bit more towards the front, you're going to get understeer, which when you spin the back out and you drift, that's oversteer. Understeer would be if you essentially go into the corner and the car's fighting you and not turning, essentially. That should be fine like that, I would say. Yeah, just understanding some of those basic concepts really helps with building in this game. Do I want this Bobcat or forklift? Thinking more Bobcat than forklift. Let's try this. Yeah, I'm thinking more Bobcat than forklift. Trying to think where I want the plate to bend. I'm going to kind of keep this tiny, but the problem is going to be the weight of it is going to be very heavy, so... see if we can do 5s. So like we're talking CG, like anything where you have to have lifting and movement, you know, you need to consider where's the load going to be, how high is the load going to be, and where's the center of gravity. So we want a really aftward center of gravity on this. And we also, so if the CG is behind the pivot point, which is going to be the wheel, we have to pick up the whole machine to do that. And so by putting the CG back here, ideally what we want is when we're fully loaded, we want that center of gravity to come back inside center of the wheels. But we also need to keep it so it's not so imbalanced that the that it wants to tip over when it's not. So it's not trying to ride dirty the whole time. Alright, so let's sit this and see how it sits. Alright, so you see how much weight that is. So that's going to counteract it, but as you see, it's doing a wheelie now. So what we do is we also want to put a bunch of weight down low forward, and so keeping it further away is going to give us a good aftward CG. Now, because the CG is behind the wheels, that's why we're doing a wheelie. All we really have to do is get that CG ahead of the wheels, and the wheelie will go away. All right, and so now it's ahead of the wheel, so it shouldn't do a wheelie anymore. And as you can see, it doesn't, right? So pretty simple. That's like where a lot of people have problems with airplanes, too, is they make these, they tend to put the wheels way in the back like a car. The point is you want the center of gravity right in front of the wheels of the main landing gear so that you don't need much force to seesaw and tilt it upward to change your angle of attack for a rotation and takeoff. And if it was behind there, it would sit on its tail. So you'll often see 737s will have a tail stand. You'll see a lot of cargo planes have a tail stand. See if I can see a 737. So let's see. Bring this up so you can see it. It's like you see the 737, they put out a tail stand. I see them do this all the time. And it will sit on its tail because if the CG gets behind the main landing gear, it will sit on its tail. You see here's a cargo 7-4, and part of the reason cargo needs this, right, is they'll slide a cargo container in the front, well, it needs to go all the way to the back. And so now you've got all the weight in the back, and it wants to sit on its tail. So you put a tail stand on until it's fully loaded and balanced. It is 7-2 on its tail. Let's check some chat here. Just ban this guy from Twitch of all places. I'm just pretty much going to give up Twitch here pretty soon. It's pretty useless. I already have a bunch of pallets that I like to move around the game. I have palletized fuel, and I'll move it on some of my airplanes. Good to see you, Citrus. How are ya? Alright, good. So let's do a quick test. We'll put this on here. So with a Bobcat, you drive with your feet. So I used to drive Bobcats, and you drive with your feet. So you'd have bucket and arms on your feet, and your hands would be for the skid steer with 2 joysticks. And then Cat does it a little bit differently. Cat, you push forward in the joystick, you go left, right, and it will turn for you. And then your bucket was on the other joystick, I think, if I remember. Let's see. Okay. Problem with the 5. I know I have space in the axles. Okay. That's backwards, but fine. I think everything's backwards compared to how I like it. All right, up. All right, good. Okay, what the hell just happened there? I pressed the wrong button. Come on, do it today. All right, there we go. Try not to build the whole episode. This was supposed to be not a workshop, but a career game. So, all right, so this is gonna be full weight. This container. So this is gonna be worst case scenario. We will see if it picks it up. It's iffy. That is gonna be a really heavy container. So has 6,500 liters of jet fuel in it, or diesel rather. Alright, problem is I can't steer right now. Put a little bit of steer in the front axle. I gotta flip axles though. Let's see, what am I grabbing with that? Just part of the arm. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and take off symmetry. I'll fix the arm. That's fine. So you just flip them like this, and it inverts the steering, but the wheels still spin the right way. And then we'll just add steering on for now, and I'll do some sort of skid steer later. I just need enough steering I can get under it. Probably merge the wheel would be good, huh? So on real Bobcats and skid steers, you'll see that big hump in the back, and the doors generally are pretty damn heavy, and part of that is the steering's backwards too. That's fantastic. Is it? Yeah, it is backwards. Okay, let's see how far off I am here. Okay. Alright, so that is, it doesn't necessarily need to be moved full, but it would be nice if it could move full. But you see how heavy that is. That is very heavy, because that is full of liquid. So, alright, what we're going to do, I need to get some weight on this sucker. Now we can keep playing with battle cannon. Like go right to XML. That's another thing. XML in the mass. Don't want to have to go in an XML right now, so we'll play with just adding a bunch of battle cannon weight and see where we can get with that, and then I'll go from there. And of course, symmetry's off. Why would it not be off? So just proof of concept in here first. That's why like some people start building like what it's gonna be like right off the bat, and then they're like, oh no, it's not gonna work. And I've done all this decorating work. It's like make sure it's gonna work first before you spend all this time on it. So it, like I said, it doesn't have to pick up the full one, but it would be nice if it could. So. And the steering being backwards is driving me nuts, but The other thing is how long the arms are. The longer the arms, the heavier it's going to be because of torque. So that's the other thing too, is how long the arms are. So the arms are pretty long. We shorten those up. That's one reason why the forklift helps. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Rocket motor in here. Fuel is going to be 0.99. Burn rate can be 0. We're going to save this as skid steer. I'm going to XML in a bunch of weight. All right, I'm going to search for rocket. There it is. And there's fuel factor, 0.99. So this is going to change. We're going to do 5,000. Let's make it 10 for now. Save that. All right, so that's adding weight to that rocket. So like if you don't have space for all the weight, you don't want to do it all, you don't have to. You can go in there and XML it in. All right, so you see how the wheels are in the ground? That's because of the weight, so. So again, if this doesn't do it, this is a huge amount of weight. We're already making it so that, you know, it's kind of glitch looking. You know, the wheels are kind of goofy because of it. And so if this won't do it, we know this design by itself is just not going to work. The fork's kind of sucking too. Partly because the steering's backwards and I keep steering the wrong direction. So you see how funky it acts because it's got so much weight on its axle. So if this lifts it, there we go. So the arms are strong enough, everything's strong enough. It needs some weight. So and you see that's too much of an arm reach because that's going to cause us problems with the further out, right? The longer the lever arm, the more torque. So by moving the arms close to the body, it's going to make it easier. So that's why I might go to forklift, because a forklift is lifting pretty much straight up, where the arms have to have a longer reach. So let's see. Let's go like this. It's fine like that. All right, it's usually the left side that has to be flipped, so we'll put these back on. Again, I'll make it skid steer at some point, but put in the left and then flip the left upside down, and then it will steer correctly. Ah, stop it. Let's see. I'll shorten up the forks too at some point. I think I might. Do I want to thin the arms up? All right, so we moved the arms in closer to the body, which is going to give us a less of a torque arm, so that the mass of the actual load is not going to have as much torque on it. All right, there we go. Let's play with that. All right, so CG needs to go forward a little bit. Still way too far aft, huh? Probably because that rocket motor is now, I gotta check the rocket motor. Let's put it back in the center. And I bet when I moved it, I think it actually deletes the number out that I put in there and defaults it when you move some of these XML edited blocks. So I think that's what happened. So let me fix it. Yes, let's try it. I don't think it did actually, but let's go ahead and we'll re-edit it. And again, I want to go play some career too, so we won't spend forever on this, but read some chat here in a bit. Say 5,000. 10 was more than I needed, so. All right. I saved it, right? Let me check, make sure I saved it. I did, okay. All right, so still too much weight biased in the ass. You can get it right between the front axles. Yeah, I don't know why it's sitting in the ass so much. That XML should fix that. Let's make it 10 again. Why is that so far biased aft? I don't get it. Buddy, sit still. Cats all over the place. Let's cut this up for now. I can't see where the actual center of gravity is when that's in there. So it's not going to read the correct one because that's XML. Let me read some chat here real quick. I would say the best way to get an Alua in-game is what I started doing, which go to Mr. Lennon's, make a screen for something you want in a vehicle. Mr. Lennon's got good visuals, and then use something like Pony to help you with the code. So you get the good visuals and you get the code. And just kind of, try to do it part by part. Make sure you make a lot of saves. So if you break something, you just go back to the save. Yeah, I don't like mods, though. All right, good. So let's go ahead. I'm going to delete out the battle cannon pieces. Again, I would have made this a workshop if I was going to work this much on building. But let's go ahead and get out of the building here in a little bit. See, it's still biased aft. I don't know why it's doing that. Seeing that is it actually biased aft, or is it because the forks are down? I think it's because the forks are down. That might actually just be the forks doing that. That's what it was. It was the forks hitting the ground. All right. That's all it was. No, it wasn't. Definitely not. Okay. There's that CG piece right there. Alright, let's try this with the module in there. Alright, perfect. That works. Still a little heavy as it's underground, you know, to see where the wheels, what the wheels are doing, but that's a heavy container. That's 6,500 liters of fuel in there, of liquid. Perfect though, but that's working well. One thing we need to do, that was not what I wanted to do. Shit. Let's go back. We gotta go back because that's the way I put it on there is not right, so that's gonna cause problems. Probably want to move this back at least one. Because we don't want it leaning forward of the wheels either, adding to the mass of it. So let's go like this. Alright, still sitting after because of all that back ballast. So let's get rid of the back ballast and let's try it with just the weight. And I think the weight's at 10,000 again. Let me look at it, see what I want to see what the minimum I need because this is a lot of weight and I don't want this to be able to lift ridiculous amounts of nonsense. Alright, so that's sitting all right. Let's check it out. So we want to check a couple things out. One, alright, the wheels are a little bit sunken under the ground more than I want. That's one thing. Alright, so now that's too much. So let's keep playing with that weight. Let's get it back to the center. And let's bias it aft just a little bit. Let's save this. Alright, then the fuel is, I got a fuel factor 10,000. Let's try 2,500. And I want to add in the steerability again. Just so I can actually get places if I need to. Alright, so the wheels aren't sunken in too badly. Also with a skid steer, you want to be able to lift the front up with the bucket. So that's why I kind of have the forks as low as they are. It makes it easier to spin turn and do stuff like that. Make that a little bit easier. Alright, so that's not going to be enough at 2,500. Biased at F just a little bit more. Let's try 5,000 we'll probably deal with. So yeah, going through the proof of concepting phase, make sure it's actually going to work, period, is helpful. One of the reasons why it's so, why the pallets are, I'm trying to think of the right term for them. The ridges of the pallets there are so close together is because I have some small aircraft that use my pallet standard, and so I don't want to screw with that and make different pallet standards, so. Alright, you sucker. Just get under there. That's one of the things that's annoying with electric motors is, like, I'd have to put in microcontrollers to test this, and I don't want to do that, so it's driving like shit because I just don't want to take the time right now to make it drive well unless I know it's going to work the way I want. So it's... Alright, there we go. Alright, so that is still not heavy enough in the back. Let's up the weight again. Do 7,500. You see it's well weighed down now, so... Really gonna need 10,000 to get this to budge, huh? Alright. Let's do this too. I want to do this. What the fuck? Why is this not symmetry? Because it's off-centered is why. Okay, that's why. I think 10,000. It's gonna need 10,000 weight to lift this. Yeah, it's gonna need 10,000 weight. We'll move that weight back 1 again. Move it right between the axles. It's gonna be prone to wheelies, but the real bobcats and other skid steers are prone to wheelies anyway, because that weight's right back on that rear axle. Let's try. We'll go right to 10,000. How's it going there, Jay? Nice to see you. Yeah, forklift would be easier just because a forklift's going straight up. You're not trying to lift it up and out, and it's got a shorter lever arm, but I kind of want a skid steer that can lift some shit, so kind of want it. So I gotta make sure this isn't actually mag all on the ground either. I might not have saved the 10,000 version, but we'll see. It's funny when you think some of the stuff will be quick, and then it's like, nah, nothing's quick. I'm amazed that this, with 20,000 like that, it's still having problems. I don't get how it's having problems with 20,000 mass in the ass like that. I really don't. Something I think got screwed up with me doing one of my saves. So let's see if... 'cause I can't imagine, like 10,000 was working with not that many battle cannon pieces in the back, and then 20 should, you know, so it's back to 10. 10 I think was working, so I don't know why it doesn't want to work now. So let's retry it. Like I can't believe that 10's not doing it. We had it up earlier with the battle cannon piece on there, and I'm adding much more weight with the XML on there. So the further you're making it aft, the greater the lever arm for the weight, so it's a big multiplication factor in the weight. It's still not doing a wheelie when I pick the forks up, so... come on. That's not helpful. Ah, you sumbitch. Come on. The, the electric motor is such a pain in the balls to drive it that I don't want to... I don't have the brakes on the front either. That's not helpful. Such a pain in the ass to drive it with the electric motors, just at full kick, that, but I want to make sure it works before I go ahead and bother putting an engine in there and everything else, so. Alright, so that is on the forks. Damn, girl, still requiring... I'm gonna just really... We're gonna hammer this shit way back. It's still showing fuel factor 20,000. But we haven't had it doing a back wheelie yet, so it's like, the battle cannon pieces, seems like they're having more of an effect. I don't get how that's the case, but... Alright, let's bang some battle cannon pieces in the back. The XML should be doing it, but it's not, so I don't know why. Because let's count the battle cannon. They're 40 apiece. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 13. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 times 4, 84. See, now it's sitting on its ass. Still barely sitting on its ass. Alright, let's move this forward, try to get total vehicle weight forward here. Still on its ass. Yeah, the point though is where your pivot is where the weight's going to be distributed. So I want the weight distributed to the back. As you can see, it's lifting the back up, right? So by putting the pivot in the back, you're putting the weight in the back. So that's on purpose. So why would I move the pivot forward when I need the weight backwards? Doesn't make sense, does it? I don't really care where real skid steers are. I'm trying to accomplish a goal, so I'm moving the center, the pivot to where it needs to be to accomplish the goal I'm trying to accomplish. All right, there we go. See what I'm saying? So right now, here, let's take a picture. I'll explain what I'm talking about here. I don't do that. Just do a screenshot. There we go. So yeah, Annie. Why is this? There, I'm gonna do it because it came up as a screenshot. Yeah, so just like I get looking at like IRL shit and trying to like reverse engineer, but you got to understand the physics of what's going on there. So like if we go ahead and we look at it, right? That's your this is where you're picking up from, right? So it's like your shoulder joint. If your shoulder joint was 6 inches forward, you would not be able to lift up as much stuff. You would need your shoulder joint moved back. What we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to accomplish more weight on the rear, right? And so you need to move your shoulder joint back. So we're trying to get more weight aft, right? We're trying to get the weight aft. So we need to move our shoulder joint, right, which is right here. We need to move it aft, right? And so by putting it here, we're putting the shoulder joint behind the rear tires. If we were trying to get our weight moved forward, right, we would move our shoulder joint up, right? So we need more weight back because it was lifting the rear up. So you can do this a couple ways. You can add a shitload of ballast, or what you can do is you can move where your shoulder joint is, right? So one of the reasons, like for a human, right, you've got your shoulders pretty much in line with your feet, right? So you've got your feet, which is your contact patch, right? There's your leg, right? Make a short waist on you. And then here's your shoulder joint, right? So when you lift something up, right, here's your arm, right? So when you lift up a soda bottle, right, you lift the soda bottle up, right? The longer the lever arm, your lever arm is measured from here to here, right? So that is putting more force on your arm. You bring that soda bottle more closely into your body, right? You're getting less force on there. So one thing we did was shorten the arms. The other thing, right, is if your shoulder joint as a human, right, let's say this is still your, right, so all the force, let's go back here this way. Right, so some of the force, right, is going forwards because you have this long lever arm, but a lot of the force is coming straight down from the shoulder, and then the resultant factor is this way because you have your arm outstretched. So what you'll do is if you have something outstretched in your arm like this, you're going to feel it in your toes as it's trying to break your toes, right? And so you're using your foot to keep you balanced, right? Right, so if you had your shoulder joint, and if a human looked like this with a shoulder joint way out here, right, like a hunchback, and even if you had the soda right underneath your arm, right, there it is there now, right, because your shoulder joint is so far forward, it's going to look like this, and you're going to tip over forwards, and that's what we're doing, right? We're tipping over forwards. So by moving the shoulder joint back, ideally, we're making it so that we're getting that weight back. So let's say the shoulder joint of a person was here, right? And you have the same arm, and you have the soda in the arm, right? Well, now you've got force here, but we have the length of the lever arm is the same, right? So that's making the resultant force like this. Well, guess what? That's straight down your leg. So if we want to get this to sit level, which is what we wanted, we want to move that shoulder joint back. So just looking at where it is on a real skid steer doesn't really affect us all that much. Yes, you can learn some things like, hey, make it kind of like it is IRL, but moving that shoulder joint is purposeful here. I put it where I put it on purpose because I need to move my center of gravity aft. And here, let's do this real quick. All right, so we got that. So does that make sense to you? So it absolutely is helpful to look at some real stuff and make that kind of make some assumptions off realistic stuff, but you also need to understand the why of the thing. Why is that doing what it's doing? And so then you can go back to some basics physics for it. So let's do this. Let's move the shoulder joints, and we'll move them up. Let's move them up here, right? All right, now we can, so this worked last time, right? This worked, it didn't tip over forward. But now remember, our shoulder joint is way far forward. So let's make a prediction that it's going to want to tip over more toward the front. All right, and you could, I rushed it. I should have pressed the lock button. Let's do it again. You could see it starting to tip forward. Last time it didn't tip forward at all. And so, you know, we're using, yes, we're using pictures of real skid steers. It's fine and it's helpful. But, all right, so you can see how it's tipping forward? Now I'm going to hit the brakes. See how it tips forward? Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll move the, go back to the other one with the shoulders in the back. All right, so now more of the weight of that container is being supported by the rear. And we'll try to do kind of a one-to-one test. All right, so now let's go ahead and hit the brakes. And notice, see how it's not tipping forwards when I hit the brakes? See how it's not tipping forward as much and falling on its nose? And that's because we moved the shoulder joint back. So you can do multiple things to try to accomplish what you're trying to do. And that's why, for example, skid steers have those shoulder joints in the back. Is because they don't have much, here, let's find a skid steer picture. But good, you know, good observations. It's just why they're there. And like, if you look at some of these skid steers, they're actually very much actually in the rear. Like, see there, the shoulder joint is behind the wheels. This is a lot of this is counterweight. The engine is in the back. The door is very heavy for a number of reasons. The door is heavy, so that what happened to this cover screen? Oh, I clicked image for some reason. How long has that been up that nobody said anything? Why is the image still up there? I'm going to remove that. I don't need that. Okay, so like you can see the shoulder joint is behind the wheels here in the skid steer. The engine's in the rear, and the door is generally really thick steel. One, so that if you back into something, you don't destroy your engine. Two, it also adds some mass, and you'll even see they have weight plates in there. I'm trying to see if we have a picture of the engine bay with the door open here on this one. Yeah, I just saw it. Did I see it? Thought I saw one with the door open. Trying to find engine bay. Not yet. So these are all things they do to balance out these machines. Try to find, let's see. You see this one, shoulder joint behind the back wheels. These are fun. I've driven dingo versions of those. This looks like a, that's right behind there. You see where it is on this Bobcat. One of the reasons why they're way back here and designed like this is so that the arms both go up and back. It gives you a higher reach, and you can put it in the back of a standard, like you see there, how far back the pivot joint is there. So you can get it in the back of a standard dump truck. You can kind of see they're pretty much all toward the rear of the tire for that reason. Back there. This one, again, is a high tip, so it not only goes up, but it goes backwards, so you can get it into the, you can lift more weight because you put it over the top of the machine instead of putting it way out front, and you can lift it high enough to get it in the back. Like, here's a good example. See how it goes forward? It's going up more, and then you can, it moves it back, so you can get the right over the side of a higher dump truck. Because, like, a lot of the skid steers I've driven, like this size, you can't get in the back of a full-size dump truck. And so it makes it difficult to be able to load dump trucks. And then, like, if you look at wheel loaders, right? Try to get a good side picture of a wheel loader. Let's just go right to... Yeah, so here's a good image of a wheel loader. Eventually when it loads. Why is that taking so freaking long? I'm just going to open image in new tab, and that will fix that problem. All right, so like here's a wheel loader. So this is your shoulder joint right here. Well, all of this machine is behind that shoulder joint. And so you have the wheels ahead of the shoulder joint, right? So this becomes your front pivot. So if you've ever seen a wheel loader end up on its bucket, right, because it's picked up something too heavy or it stopped short with something too heavy and the bucket's too high, all of this machine is acting as a counterweight. That's why the engine is way, way back here. That's why the engine is far behind the aft axle. That's why, see this big bumper here? That's a big weight. And so you're doing all of this so that you can lift up with the front, and it's going to try to pivot over the front tires and lift the back up. And so you put a lot of machine in the aft, and that makes it so it's a long lever arm, and you get good counterbalance. So, all right, let me catch up with chat. Yeah, but that's why my shoulder joints are where they are. I'm 60 hours in, but let's see. I can't catch up with all the chat, but if you guys, there's a lot of people here. Good to see everybody. If you're trying to talk directly at me, just do an at Captain Cockles so I see it. Yeah, I see what you're saying now. Yep. How's it going, Daniel? Yeah, it's mostly just explaining it too. I like explaining, go through the physics of these things, so. All right, good. So that's set up well. Let's go ahead and let's save that right quick. All right, so kind of my methodology when I'm building. This should be a workshop episode at this point. But I'm not doing much career, unfortunately. But we'll go ahead and let's see. Let's make this work enough so that I can go do some career. Because, again, this is not a workshop episode. It was... I could just change it in a workshop episode, but let's go ahead and let's go do some career. That's like I'll want to do career, and then I'll be like I'll get building, and then it's like it's building. So not the end of the world. All right, so let's go. We'll stop building for now. Let's go ahead and save this up. But kind of going through the proof of concepting is what I like to start with, and I got to make it work first, and then go back and reinvent, put engines in it, and then by making it balanced first, you can go back, and as I add an engine, of course we know the center of gravity is going to change. As I add different parts, center of gravity is going to change, and then we can move ballast again to get it fixed where it needs to be. All right, I'll be right back with this loads. I'm going to go ahead and grab some cafe. All right, good. I'm back. Let me see if I can't look at a little bit of chat here. How's it going there, Thermite? Good to see you. How's it going, Daniel? I said hi to Daniel, I believe. We got one on Twitch. Yeah, but when you explain it on here, when you move the weight to the back, the shoulder really makes a difference. No, it just demonstrated it worked. Yeah, yeah, like us. You know, if you look at excavators, they'll have that raising section to be able to raise counterweights. They'll be able to put on extra, especially farm equipment has a lot of ability to add weight. All right, so if you didn't catch on yesterday, what we were doing with the vulture, added some cool features. I'll quickly show those off. Probably shouldn't spawn and despawn here. Should have shown you in custom, but whatever. So we can add our module in here. One thing we added yesterday was I got to put on the power. All right, so we added the ability to go up and down on the legs, which allows us to hook to our modules. So because we were trying to sell our diesel, and I was unable to pick the module back up, which was fine, but couldn't pick the module back up. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is let's get the helicopter outside, because I want the module to be separate from this so that if I want to do something with the helicopter, I can despawn it and the module can stay in the world. That's one of the reasons I started screwing around with the skid steer, was I need some way to move that module, ideally full, when it's full of fuel. All right, good. Let's go ahead and set the brakes, which is 6. All right, good. And what I'm going to do is let's bring this in. Just going to do this for now. Can't see shit, can't see shit. All right. All right, that's in there for now. Let's go ahead and just hook up. I don't want to do infinite electricity. All right, that's good. Let's go ahead and save it. That will get a skid steer controller. It will get because I'm not going to do steering. It's going to be skid steer. It's going to get a modular in there. Probably just be I'm not going to do direct drive because it's just too much clutch work to put in with, especially how big the clutches are. So it'll be diesel electric. And then I didn't rehook the front brakes, but that's fine. Let's get a paint job on here real quick. I'm not going to belabor it too much, but what color is diesel's generally just not diesel rather. Jet fuel's generally a blue. Yeah, jet fuel is generally a blue. I can bucket some of this, I guess. I hate bucketing, but I guess we can bucket. Let's just do this. Let's go. A little bit of color on there so I'm not flying around with primer colored crap everywhere. And then where do we have? Right here. I should get that zinc primer, make that my color, and get myself a good zinc primer. I just want a paintable sign. Stop. I probably shouldn't be spawning this and despawning all the time in here. 65. It's going to be too big with the border on it. I'll get rid of the border. .5, they're too tall there for that, so we'll go here. All right, 6.5 is the capacity. I like putting that on so I kind of just can, at a glance, like I do that in a lot of my dump trucks too. I can see the capacity. Make sure it's set to diesel. Yeah, it's diesel too, huh? It doesn't really matter, but diesel. Okay, good. Diesel should be yellow, but whatever. All right. Yeah, adding a counterweight would be a good idea to do on there. Just do it with hard points. That'd be kind of nice. I like making accessories for everything, so that's right up my alley. That's fun. I like doing that sort of thing. You know, somebody's operated equipment for a long time. I always need to do first person for this stuff. It's just so much easier for me to see it. Back out. I just conceptualize everything in first person. I can't really conceptualize in third all that well comparatively. Right, there we go. Right, what is up with it? Grabbing the ground. It could have been as much as that battery that I just added on there is causing problems. Shiza. Let's see if we can get this in. That might be out of the way enough. Nah, it's gonna grab it. It is gonna grab it. All right, let's try this. I'm gonna try to just push the helicopter back. I don't want to dick around all day. That battery probably did us in. I pressed the wrong button. What did I press? What did I do? 5 is fall. Okay, I did press 6, I think. Yep, it's rolling. Try to get over this gap, you sucker. Don't want to fly it in there if I can avoid it. Rather not get one of my tugs out. Go. I should be in the cockpit doing this. That's close. All right, off to the right a little bit. There we go. All right, good. All right, that's in. All right, we'll see you later there, Citrus. Thanks for coming by. All right, gears coming up. Still could probably use a little bit of decrease in pitch sensitivity on the gyro. That's a little oscillation, that's what that's from. Autopilot's somewhat working. I just threw my airplane autopilot in there so I can use my screen. I haven't completely configured it to do most of the helicopter things I need, so I'm gonna do that. Hello, CG. Yeah, one out, one in. 2-man enter, 1-man leave. Got a ship out there. What's that, Johnny, looking like? That's the hospital ship. I'll go sell this John here. Gear's coming down. This will keep our money moving. I put a keep active block in there, so this should keep selling. Alright, we got the brakes on. We're going to shut down one of the engines. That's selling. Making money. Get out of here. I shut down one of the engines. We don't need both engines running when we're not carrying a heavy load, so we'll save us some fuel. Gears coming up. Let's go take a look at this rescue. I don't want to burn up too much of my jet fuel as I don't have tons and tons of jet fuel. Had one over here, somewhere out here. Yeah, that's not really helpful when I can't get my mouse to work when we're not looking. Right here. Yellow fishing boat servicing in this ocean. We could go do that. I might as well just go get in the boat and do it. Let's do that. How's it going there, Rasmus? Hello, hello. Very nice. Alright, I want to get more pitch down so we can travel a little faster, so I'm just taking off the auto hover. And I'll just control it. Let me get a little bit more aggressive here. That will let me get more aggressive. So, alright, gear's coming up. Not that aggressive. We don't need to be that aggressive. I'll make this landing without auto hover on. May or may not have my park brake on. I don't know. That's a little aggressive there. Yep, that's aggressive. We're in deep shit here. There we go. Being too aggressive. Alright, let's shut down. Alright, we will get this back. I can bring it right back in the workbench from here. Too aggressive. Alright, good, good, good. That's back in the workbench. Good. We still should be making money. We are. Remember before when we got this far away, we weren't making money because we didn't have a keep active on. We have a keep active on. It's going to keep it active, and we're going to keep selling. So I get why people complain about the flow rates and how slow it is, especially if they're trying to do like a huge tanker. But put a keep active on there, and you can go do something else. All right, let's go ahead and do that mission. It's not a lot of cash, but you don't need tons of cash all the time. Let's do a different vehicle. We rode that earlier. Let's see. Let's see. Convertible. What do we got here? Oh, my parking brake is on this one. Yeah, I got a parking brake on. I can't remember where it is. Headlights, release park brake. That is it. It's a nice sunny day out. We'll do a little convertible-ing. This does have a hard top, or I could put a convertible top on this. It's got a soft top sitting that I can add to it. I didn't run over him, did I? No, I just went by him. He's been sitting there for a while. It's also nice with a convertible. I can just jump off the top here theoretically. There we go. Let's take my tugboat out. I don't know if I want to take the tugboat out. Let's see. It's a little on the slow side. Let's not use that for now. Let's use our rescue boat that we've been working with. That's the convertible top for it. We'll get that. There it is. I was gonna say, is it gonna spawn in? We'll get that that seaplane in as well at some point. I know this boat is set up for pumping fuel out and filling vehicles that ran out of fuel, so that's one reason I want to take this. I don't think the tugboat's set up for that necessarily, so. A new bearing panel is something on my to-do list. I'm trying to actively put it in so that I can put the code right into the autopilot. That was a fantastic update the devs did last with the stackable nodes. That really shrunk a lot of panels down and makes it so that I can kind of put them together. It's really helpful. All right, 307, a little bit to the right. 308, 309, that works. A little less than a minute. There they are right there. We can already see them. I'm going to do this so I don't have to look at that red nonsense the whole time. There we go. I should have one on me at all times anyway. Oh, I'm going to flip my wash here. I don't have an autopilot. That's one of the nice things with autopilots is, you know, it's good for, especially if you're playing by yourself and you just like you need to go do something, you can both play and do something else. It's one of the things where I get like where people are like, oh, any game where you have to like automate it and then go step away and do something else, like watching YouTube videos, bad game design. I disagree. I think if that's the only thing, still it's not necessarily bad. Depends on the type of game, like flight sim, right? You could do a 28-minute flight and be engaged the whole time, or you could like do a 3-hour flight and get some IRL stuff done, right? You could put the plane on autopilot and do your laundry. You could, where like if it's a game like Rocket League, you can't play Rocket League and do your laundry. You have to play Rocket League. Yeah, they definitely added a bunch of new boats. This one's new. All right. I assume this is a fill. Let's see what it says. Refuel. That's it. Okay. You know, so it depends on like the type of gaming you're looking for at the time. Like there's times where I want to be completely engaged and I want to like operate my vehicles, and there's other times where like I got stuff to do and I want to play and do that. So, you know, then I'll be like, all right, let's move some fuel. The fuel can pump while I'm doing something else, and then you know, I can still get other stuff done and make progress and enjoy playing my game, you know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll do that while this is filled. All right, Operation Laundry was a great success. What does it see? Oh yeah, those propellers again. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I love the new boats. They're very well designed. I like a lot of the new details. But Christ, man, put the rudder behind the propellers, like that. Just breaks my brain. They're nicely designed, though. I assume this mission finished. Did it? Yeah, it finished. It cleared. Okay, good. I was flipping me laundries. Yeah, but I always like those games where like you can also do other things. I know some people like, oh, it's anathema to them that, oh my God, you gotta step by and do something. It's like, you know, sometimes that's what you want in a game. Like Tarkov, you know, I play a lot of Tarkov, and you know, you can't step away from Tarkov. So it's you have to like make sure you have a block of time that's all yours, and that you can not be disturbed through. And it's frustrating when you get disturbed, or you got to do something else, and it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's nice to just be able to. You need to step away for a second, play a game. You can do that. Yeah. Having the propellers in the back like that's a little hazardous. This guy's been flying around for some time. So, you know, one thought I had was to start a new boat. I want to, this one's nothing's ever finished. Let's just put that way. This one needs minimal improvement, which we're not going to do right now because we spent so much time on skid steer, to get to the point where we can call this one, you know, fit for its role, and you know, and so like right now, this shit's hanging off the front. I don't want it hanging off the front. This is hanging off the sides. So, and plus, with me getting the Lua, I'd like to make some new boat Lua screens, and they'll go across the front here. And then, so that'll kind of go through that. And then these can go on the pedestals. Actually, the pedestals, I think, are doing... The pedestals are both air intakes. So, I might just make one of them an air intake. And then the other, that way I can put stuff on the pedestal. But, this boat needs minimal cleanup to be where it needs to be. I could use an autopilot. Again, that's nice to be able to step away. You can go do something. Take some of the monotony necessarily out of steering if that's what you're looking for. Now let's go ahead and make a save. Let's do 30. Alright, good. Again, get another mission. Green fishing boat emergency. Get out of bed. It's up here somewhere. Likely around there. 7,000, that's good money. See what else I have for boats. Let's stick with this one, I guess. That's fine. Let's see. So you see we're still making money, so we're still pumping out. So again, I understand why the devs likely reduced the flow rate through fluid ports. I get why people are frustrated by this, but like you can also just go do something else while it's doing that, man. All right, we're selling diesel. It's passive income. You can go do something else. Oh, nice. That's good. Daniel, yeah, Daniel said he's starting Harbor Crane. Yeah, if you guys watched yesterday, or didn't watch yesterday, if you watched yesterday, you know what I'm going to talk about. But Yeah, what Dan was referencing. So, like, I'm gonna make a. Somebody had said, that they wish that the new player career build series had continued. One of the things I asked for in the new player career build series is, hey, tell me what you guys, as new players, would like to see, or returning players, whoever is using the tutorials, would like to see. And so, one thing I do is I'll look at, Haunt Reddit and everywhere else. That people are looking for some help or struggling with something, and then make a video on it. So one of the things is, people were lamenting the fact that, oh, there's no crane at the dock, so I can't do containers with my little boat. And it's very challenging. It requires a lot of knowledge in the game to be able to make cranes that you can put on your boat and self-load and unload. And they need to be pretty big boats, and so that's pretty late game stuff. And so you might not get to that for a while, but you want to, be able to do containers. And one of the things you could do is you can spawn cranes with an add-on, and you can make them static vehicles, like a real crane. And you can go ahead and, for free, put the equipment in the world and then be able to use it. So I made a crane yesterday so that we can get into some containers. We had to get away from base to get more to spawn. There are only 2 there, so if we get any lucrative crates, we'll go ahead and do that. My tugboat that I'm going to use, that was from one of the earlier career series, that tugboat has autopilot. So again, and it has keep active blocks. So what we could do is that tugboat will go from point A to point B, pulling a barge with containers. We can teleport somewhere else, play a different character for a while, right? We can go ahead and do rescues and whatever we want to do. And as soon as the tugboat hits the waypoint, it's going to stop. And so then when we're ready, we can teleport back, dock it, and continue, right? So we don't have to sit there. If you're bored by sitting on a boat for, just watching the sea go by for a long time, which I get bored doing that sometimes too. You can keep it on autopilot, let it do that, go do something more engaging or something IRL, and then when you get back, it stops. Like, there was literally, I did a trip to the Arctic one time. One of my seeds, the refinery island, was right up here. And so I did a trip where the Arctic used to be able to buy real cheap oil and sell it for a good price down here. And so I took my large oil tanker and I took it down from the Arctic all on autopilot, and I brought it down here, and I went to bed. It was going to take something like 6 hours for it to get down there. And so I went to bed, and when I woke up, guess what? It was sitting right next to the oil rig, stopped. And I went, docked it, started unloading it, and then I just went about the rest of my day, and it unloaded the oil. So that's one of the nice things with having some good autopilots, is you can do all that. Oh my, I got bonus points on one of my hotel stays. Ooh, isn't that fancy? Give me some bonus points, my people. I like it. Alright, what was this again? Green? Green fishing boat emergency. Alright, make sure no clips off. I'm going to make sure. I don't think teleporting does it, but everything's been closed, but we'll shut teleporting off too. There it is. Oftentimes, they're up against the islands, so that's why I looked over there was, oftentimes they're right up against the islands, so yeah, people kind of just look outside sometimes, and oftentimes they'll be right on the islands. Alright. The fire has been extinguished. It tipped over. Rescue 2 casualties. Let's try not to run over all of our casualties. So this is another new boat. Again, so like when people say, oh, the devs abandoned the game, they're uninformed. Let's put it that way. There's a bunch of new boats in game. There's, they've been doing some really good updates. I think a lot of people who even were pretty strong detractors of the development team have been pretty happy with some of the additions of the game lately. And the reason why the boat flipped is this person's clipped into the side. So that's something that you can never take out of a game. Is if you put an object into another object that doesn't have the code to be able to like bend or break, the game's not going to know what to do with that, right? And so that's why you get that funky, floppy behavior. It's why when you put, when you try to put two immovable objects into one another, you get weird behaviors, and people can use it for glitching, like they can do hover generators where they have wheels pushing into blocks, right? So the wheel pushes into the block. Well, what's the code tell it to do? Push the car up, right? So when the suspension pushes into the ground, it says, hey, push the car up, right? So you bounce the car up. And you can glitch that by forcing them into one another, and then it causes it to fly, right? It's like when you see people like, oh, stormworks physics is broken because my boat's flipping. Well, then what do you ask them usually? Well, do you have a moving counterweight? And they're like, yes. Is it in? Do you have a physics flutter in there? And they're like, yes. So you've essentially made a solid block with a moving object in a solid block. So there's no code for that to say how does a block work in a solid block, right? In real life, right, it would burn out the electric motor that's moving it around. You wouldn't put it in there IRL. And so what happens in game is you have a force going into something that can't move, right? So what's it do? It flips your ship. And it causes it to act weird. And so if you get rid of the physics flutter and you build correctly, that doesn't happen, right? See, I don't see any. I'm looking for crates too. We're trying to just get some cash money, dollar bills, son. All right. Saving lives here. That was a cool new boat too. A lot of new boats they've added. We're gonna keep an eye on our. Let's see. Okay. I'm looking at our jet fuel. Still doing pretty good on jet fuel. We've got 1657 and we've got 1922, which was a good year back over there. So enough to run our helicopter for a little bit. You can see we're still gaining money as we're still selling, so we know there's not time to go pick up our module yet. So the whole reason I brought up that kind of glitchy behavior was the fact that, you had a person's legs which need to have a collision so that you as a person can walk up a hill, you can jump on your boat, and it causes it to rock and roll. But when you glitch into the blocks, well, now a collision, your legs are now stuck in a block, and it doesn't know what to do, and it's imparting a force, which normally, as you step in the block, it causes an opposite force pushing you up so you don't go through the block. And now you're stuck in the block, so it's trying to push you out, potentially in many different directions, causing the boat to kind of rock around and glitch. It's why no clipping is a good idea to keep on sometimes. Because, like, if you're trying to... If you get out of your seat, right, what was a seated character is now a standing character, and your head might go into the blocks and then start causing your vehicle to start bobbing around, and then you no clip out, and now the collision's no longer there. Right. Grab this Johnny here. I'm in the drink. Or Janie. Hiya! Get this sucker. Alright, falling. Oh, god damn it. Get out of that drink, you scum. This one just, like, does not want to live. Yeah, come on there, dude. Alright, could you, like, not be a dickhead all day long? This one's having problems, so we're gonna just... This one is, challenged. We're gonna baby this one, get this one up there. Come on, jump, sucker, get up there, sucker. She's heavy. Alright. You're gonna be ridiculous all day long? I didn't grab an extra health kit. I don't really need the money. It's not a huge deal. The amount of money I lose is minimal. Alright, good. Alright, so that's good. We got some good cash, money, dollar bills off that. I doubt the crates have respawned. If they have, I would say they're respawning a little bit fast for our needs. Yep, they haven't respawned. Good. It would just be too much. We'd be making money too fast. Okay. If you mount a pivot on a body that pushes into another first, it should not move the first body because they clip. Alright, I should have slept in that bed. Let's sleep in the bed. Instead of heading back, I'm going to try to use my time wisely. Where's my anchor? Our anchor just clipped. Let's go ahead and take a nap, and then we'll try to get a new mission. I've got a bunch of stuff overridden, like time of day and the weather right now, because it was just foggy like crazy. I'll go ahead and we'll shut that off when we get going here, just to make it a little bit different. That's good. That's on the way. All right, let's go ahead and we'll get rid of some of those things. Good. It was just so foggy. We were like, some of the episodes, it was fog the whole episode, and it's like, kind of got sick of it. So, just overrode some of the weather and the time of day so that we could actually, you guys could see what I'm doing. Let's get a bearing for our new mission 234. I'll be there in about 2 minutes. Alright, so that was some good stuff. We got that loader, the front little skid steer working pretty well. Gotta do some work on that. To get that kind of, nothing's ever finished, but I want to put a module in there. I want to get a skid steer controller going in there. I think I'm going to make a skid steer controller. I'm trying to like standardize everything and have one, so every time I make a skid steer, I don't need to make a new controller. I'm going to probably do it Caterpillar style, where it's essentially WSADs. How it worked on the Caterpillars is you have a throttle pedal on your foot, and you push the throttle to give it more throttle, and then you would go forward and to the right. Forward, just go forward, and then it would divert the hydraulic pressure. If you went to the right, it would give more to the left side, so you'd turn and go forward. If you went just to the right, it would move you in position, giving all the forward power to the left side and rearward power to the right side. It's hydrostatic. I would love it if the devs would make it so we could have some hydrostatic drives in game. Again, never say never, as they've added a bunch of stuff people thought never would come. So that would be cool to have some good hydraulic stuff, but part of the problem is the space requirements, because you'd really need to change some of the small impeller. Like, you know, the quote-unquote small pumps are 3x1, and then it's really 5x1 if you added any pipe on the ends, which you're going to have to do. So now it just really takes up a huge amount of space. So they really have to shrink some of the stuff down. And that looks like what they're kind of working on. You know, I don't certainly know if they're actually working on some of the parts, but starting to try to make stuff smaller. You can see that where, you know, we asked for the ability to put RPS through small pivots, and we got it. We asked for node stacking, we got some of that. So that's really helping to miniaturize some things. Things like, I would love a 1x1 clutch. That would be a great addition. I think they should depreciate the old clutch. We had old clutches before. Actually, were those the originals? Those might be the original clutch. We had old gearboxes. They were, what, 2x2s? Rasmus, do you remember 2x2s for the old gearboxes? So they were huge. And then they made them 1x1s you could work. This has got to be it, right? That's got to be it. Is this it? What was the mission? Blue boat radio for help. Okay. This looks like a blue boat, but I don't know if I'm here or not. Is this it? The mission pop up? That's it. Is this it? How far are we from it? 0.01 distance. Yeah, this is it. What does it say? One overboard. All right, where you at there, son? Way out there, son. Did I crush you to death? I don't see. What does it say? Thought I saw a flashing light over there. I guess not. Where the hell? This appears to be the boat. This boat's got a weird design to it. This is an old boat. A lot of crouching going on in here. Could not have a nice shit there standing up, but you gotta contort yourself to get in there to have said shit. So you're like, oh, I'm stuck in here. There we go. Where the hell is this person? Huh. I don't see him. It's not a lot of money, so if they're dead or it's broken, I don't really give a shit. We'll leave it. I do not see them. What was that? That could have been a fish. Alright, I'm not worried about it. We'll get out of here. Go back to base. Yeah, they were 2x2. So, like, you know, if you kind of look at the history of them doing this, they are trying to miniaturize some of these things. It takes time. It's like, what's important? The larger pumps are, God, they're huge. You know. But, like, I've been able to simulate some cool hydraulic stuff with essentially pumping from one tank into the other and then reading the pressure, and then you essentially dictate with an up-down counter. So, like, for example, my hydraulic cylinders in some of my trailers, you pump hydraulic fluid from the truck into the trailer, and once the pressure gets high enough in the tank, the cylinder will start to increase, and then as you open the valve to put it back to the sump, as the pressure drops, the cylinder drops. And so, like, you can do some cool stuff with that. I would love to see hydrostatic drives where essentially, I think what they could do is they should make pretty much the small impeller. They should make a second version where you can pump it with the liquid to make RPS backwards. That would bring in turbos. That would bring in the ability to do hydraulic stuff because you could pump water, oil, or slurry, diesel, whatever liquid you want to pump. You could pump the fluid, and then you could turn the other impeller, and then you could do pneumatics where you're pumping gases, doing the same thing. That'd be fantastic, and they could, they don't need to get rid of the current impellers. They just should add essentially the same impeller with different name. And so one of the reasons why they changed it, we used to have turbos. The problem was this: when you would put the impeller on your air intake, you used to have a valve that would let air through, or you'd have to spin up your turbo first because it, if it wasn't spinning, it wasn't letting air through. And the problem with that was you couldn't start your engine because you had no air. And so one of the things, they made it leaky, and when you make it leaky, that doesn't work for that particular use case. So they could pretty easily, like, so if I put an impeller on here, right, for air, the air will leak through. So the gases will leak right through. And so, like, if you pressurize the hydraulics, as soon as you stop that impeller, it would backflow. And so then you have to add another part that I would love to see them make smaller is the valves, because this valve is a 2x1 for no reason. And so if you made that a 1x1, it's still taking up a bunch of space, but that would help as well. The other thing you could do is put inbuilt valves where you have ins outs, because that's fluid out, fluid in. By doing that, you can make them one way. Like, I would love to see the devs make it where we click on the impeller and we get to set which direction it goes. A to B, B to A. So if they made this BA, you could set it so that it's omnidirectional, A to B, B to A. You could essentially have a valve in there. That would be really cool. And then if you pump a fluid through here, you could then get RPS off. And that's how a hydrostatic drive works. So here, let's... For funsies. Oh, shit, we didn't get any new containers. That could be because with the keep active block and us being in the area, they don't have... Okay, so, see the money stopped? So that means we've sold all our diesel. I'm just going to do this real quick so that I can get around, kind of show you hydrostatic drive real quick. So like a hydrostatic drive... What you're essentially doing is, let's do imp. Probably need to do 2. So that would be kind of how the hydrostatic drive would be. So there's your RPS connection. So you put a wheel on it. And there's your RPS connection is off that. And then you have fluid in and out. All right, and so where the hell's the other node? Just flipped it. Okay, there's RPS and there's a fluid node. So there, we're good there. So we've got fluid in and out. That's better there, like that. All right, so there's your flow, and so if you went one way with the fluid, it would make the wheel go forward. If you go the other way, it makes it go backwards, and that's how, like, say, things like zero-turn lawnmowers, skid steer loaders work. A lot of loaders are hydrostatic now, and so essentially, if you pump the fluid one way, it's going to make the wheel go forward. Pump it the other way, wheel goes backwards, and so it's nice because you do this all with valves. So what you could do is you essentially have your motor, right? And they would have to really shrink up valves, and I think that's something they should do. So let's say you have a motor. We call that an engine or just electric motor or whatever. And let's say you have your impeller. All right. And you have your fluid, right? So you would need to be able to essentially run multi-lines where you have the lines running to there, and you essentially do outflow, inflow, and sump. So sump is just a tank for storage. And you would make loops with it. So you could do something simple, kind of like... So if we pump this direction, it's going to go ahead and it's going to move the wheel one way, right? And so the easiest way to reconnect these is with a valve. Now the problem is the valves we have in game are absolutely freaking enormous. And we can't, so like a valve, let's see how big a valve is. It's a 2x2. So you see how with this big valve head on there. So like if you made smaller valves, like we have this hand valve, which is great. They added this in a smaller size. But if you made an actuatable valve here, which we can move with Boolean, right? You now can tee this off. And let's go ahead and get rid of this block here. And you can see why you would really need to miniaturize the parts here, because you can see how it's already getting big. And so essentially, let's do this. And kind of how I would want to do hydrostatics. And how it would work IRL is you're essentially taking it like this. And let's say these small valves were made so you could control them. What I would do, I think the easiest thing for them to do is make them numbers and variable valves, because then you would be able to go all the way to 0, and you could crack them to go slow, and that would allow you to slowly drive your vehicle, right? And so what you would need to do is control the flow rate. So if you made them positive, negative, if it was positive, flow would go from this side to this side, say A to B, and then if it was negative, it would go from B to A. And so this allows you to have a hydraulic system like this, and then you need to go back to the sump as well. So you'd have to have a sump return on there. And so we wouldn't actually hook it up like that. We would go all the way out like this. So the best way to do it is essentially like this. Actually, you'd loop it. And then you put a T-piece in here. And so the flow would go through the sump would be easiest. And essentially something like this. And so if you wanted to go one way, you would turn this, because the motor, ideally, you don't want to stop your hydraulic pumping, and you want it to go in one direction, and you want to just relay the motion, because every time you try to stop this motor, you have to go from going to stop to reverse. It's better to keep it running in one direction. The oil's always flowing. And then you control where you want the oil to go. So, for example, you pump the oil out of the sump into this valve here, and then go this way. It would come out here, and then it would have to go back to the sump, but it would circulate. And so it would circulate, making the wheel go one direction. And then you would change the valve direction, and then the pump now goes this way, making the wheel go backwards. And you can easily make the wheels go forward, backwards. And because this pump is always pumping, you always have a high pressure amount of hydraulic fluid available. If you made it where you have to reverse the electric motor, let's say you're up to 3,000 psi, well, then the motor has to stop. You get down to, say, 0 psi, and then it has to go backwards to go 3,000 psi again, so the vehicle would stop waiting for a quick turn. The point of hydrostatic is I can push my handle forward, and the left wheel goes forward. I can pull it right back, and it goes right back, because the oil is always up to pressure. It just has to change flow. So you'd have to have more valves in the sump. So something essentially like this. So it's coming in from the sump. So you're taking oil from. It's not gonna work there. You'd have to have a valve here, back to the sump, essentially. So it would go from here and it would bypass the sump return, which would have to also have its own valve, but that's, so it'd be more like this. And then you'd have to go... It would be more like this, essentially. You take the oil out of the sump, you pressurize it, you send it through the system. You either send it going this way, but you'd have to have sump returns at all point to be able to push the oil back into the sump to recirculate. So it'd take a little bit of system, but you could circulate back here essentially, and then feed it out to the different run channels. But that would be cool. And then you do the same thing with pneumatics. All you really do is you change this. Get rid of the diesel. Now it's air moving through the system. That's pneumatics. That's hydraulics. So something pretty simple like that. I think it would be cool to add pneumatics into the game. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do next. I'll be right back. Let me see if I'll bring up the bathroom break screen. Is it on here? I had an overlay for it. I'm trying to find the overlay so I can put it in the folder that I need. Where are you? There we go. All right, be right back, guys. All right, very good. I'm back. Ate dinner, took a nap, and 2 hours missed. How's it going there, Casper Bojano? How are you? Oh, you made your own hydrostatic motor? That's cool, Rasmus. Yeah, I think hydrostatics are super cool. So one thing I'd like to do, let's see. This hybrid, I talk about this hybrid all the time, and I gotta make a module for it. This hybrid is insanely efficient. Let's take a look at it. It has I believe it's a 2-cylinder modular engine. It has no cooling whatsoever. It doesn't need it. It runs down in the arid biome without any problem. It's fast. It has dual motor drive front and back, so it's all-wheel drive. It's very compact. Like I said, it needs no cooling. And what I want to do is, especially with this new update where we can stack, like you can see how much smaller we can get these microcontrollers, and so I could really get this hybrid drive kind of standardized and use it on more stuff. But this is really a very super duper efficient vehicle that, like I said, it never overheats, and it goes fast. Like here's the speedo. No, up. Brakes. I think we're probably, I think this has got to be in meters per second because, I think it's got to be in meters per second because I didn't have the space. No, I did convert. I think it is miles per hour. Okay. But it's nice that it barely uses any fuel. It's fast. And so I like to make it, you know, I prefer having transmissions just for the fun of it. I like shifting, but this is like something it's good, especially for small vehicles, because like we're going 80 miles an hour. Oh, Jesus, brakes. We're going 80 miles an hour. I keep getting distracted trying to look at things. And it doesn't need any cooling, and it runs really low, and it works really well. So I'd like to make a modular setup of this so that I can put this on different vehicles. You know, and it never overheats. So it's and I made it this tiny so that it can fit in like some of my helicopters that fit on my boats and kind of Russian doll everything. So all right, let's go get that module. All right, so we only really need one engine because we don't have a container, but it takes us a while to start up with just one engine. So we're gonna go ahead and blow both engines here to get the rotors spinning. And then once the rotors come up to speed, we're gonna go shut down an engine to save some fuel. All right, rotors are up. Here comes 2 is off. All right, good. And then we can shut the park brake off. We'll put our gear up. There goes the gear. So it works well on one engine. I'd like to make some more modules like, so this is kind of the coax module. If you were watching earlier in the week when I was doing this, essentially, or last week, what I was trying to do is have it so that, nav light then? Okay, I gotta fix some of the electrics on this, because I moved a bunch of stuff around and I broke probably the landing lights got taken off, so broke the landing light connection. That's why our nav lights and beacon are not working. So I started this by just pretty much making the engines and the rotors, and like if you saw earlier, I was flying around with just the engines and the rotors underneath me. I just put a seat on it and was flying. And so the point of that was to make a module for a coax. And so essentially you can take this for a turbine-controlled coax, and then you could take that and quickly build a coax helicopter. You've got most of the stuff, and I wanted to get to the point where I have all of the microcontrollers for the cockpit. And once I have that done, I'm going to do other things like tandem, conventional. And so if I want to build a conventional helicopter, because I don't have tons of time to play anymore, so what I can do is instead of having to do the laborious task of completely making all the panels and everything else, I can take the module, slide the module in, and then build the rest of the vehicle. And if I want to make some small changes, I can do that. But most of it is, most of the time-consuming element is done. So I'm trying to make more of those modules, and that's kind of like talking about the hybrid drive system there as well. I'm kind of looking down there. Oh, don't hit stuff, please. Gotta look up to not hit that. Everybody and their brother in Reddit had no clue like what the purpose of this vehicle. I had all their suggestions of like, oh, make it longer, make it this. Well, again, this is the point of this vehicle is to be put on my ships, so it can't really be longer and be put on my ships. So that's part of the goal here is to put this on my ships. So it needs to be pretty small for that to work. All right, let's lower the chassis here down. And we'll go ahead and, what do I need to do? 6 brakes. Okay, brakes are off. I should be able to steer. Let me see. Oh no, I don't have steering anymore. I took that off the nose gear. Nose gear used to steer, it doesn't steer anymore. I was wondering why I can't get steering because I took it out. I can steer it by bumping it, so. Yeah, it's one of those things, the balance of like realism and game is like, it sounds great to make everything realistic until you realize you wouldn't be able to just push shit like we do now. That's helpful for a lot of builds is the ability just to kind of like manhandle your vehicle around. Like I can just gently bump it and get it where I need it. There we go. All right, good. Very nice. All right, let's go ahead. One of these belongs to this. And then the other one belongs to the station. We'll stick that there. Make good money on that. And it's showing, yep, empty. Empty, empty, empty. Okay, good. And the reason why those started right up is if you notice the turbines were still spinning up. They're still spun up, so. All right, 6 is brakes, and then trim is off, and oh, let's pull back a little bit and get out of here. All right, here comes the gear. Reddit's commentary also was like, why didn't you carry the container underneath it? It's like, because it's made for modules, not for containers. Not its job. Its job is to carry modules and then sling load containers because it needs to be small to go on my ships because I'm building it for my purposes, not your purposes. So like right now we could run with 1 engine. We don't need 2 engines with an empty container. We could even carry it with 1 engine with probably a full container because not this container, it's not that heavy. Let's see, probably got another 45 minutes I can play here. So what I might do is, I know it's turned into a lot of building, but might work on a container module for this. That'd be kind of fun. I already kind of did a proof of concept on that. I want to try an idea, kind of a pendulum container module. We'll try that out, see how that works for us. Do a quick improve on the helicopter. I got to fix the lights. So before I forget that, I'll just do it now. Well, making good money here, and so it's getting to this point where we start to buy more bases, start to bring in some of our bigger equipment. I forget what Tethys cost. Tethys is not cheap. I didn't put the gear down, did I? Nope, I didn't. All right. I sit on its tail because I did that. That's fine. All right, that's in. Let's fix the lights. So I gotta see all the light connections here. That's fine. They go back there. I like that. That's good. Good, good, good. And then we had landing lights. Don't think we have anything in the nose. We don't. So let's go ahead and got a couple options here. That I don't want to do. I'm gonna put them there and then put glass over them. I don't want to do that. Could put 2 here or 1. I'm thinking 1. So this is an option. That's one option. Other option is something looking, say like that on either side. Leaning more towards that, I would say. Symmetrical. Probably like that, I would say. Yeah, I like that, I think. And then I can angle them down later. And then we'll go from this side here. It's on the hot side than this side. So that needs to go back to hot. That's not the hot bus. This needs to go to the hot bus. Now that'll take care of all the lights there. And then we've got landing lights. Landing right here. Color them up. Okay, good. So now we got landing lights again. They're plugged and powered. Anything else I needed to do? Probably not for now. Let's go ahead and save it. So once I get all the systems kind of going, I got a lot of other stuff I need to do. I'll make a module for this, and then essentially all we're going to do is like, I'll make a tandem module using most of the same cockpit controls. Because it's going to be like a twin engine, engine setup for tandems and for coax, and this makes it easier. Start going to 4 engines or whatever. Like I might do a big build like that, but I need a lot of space for all the accoutrement. So that's good. Let's close that out. We got to pull this module back in. That's pulled in. All right, good. All right, let's see. That's done. Let's work on the sling. So I'm going to try a pendulum sling for containers. This could be interesting. So let's do module. And this is the blank. We'll start working with the blank and then just mostly need the positioning. Here, let's do this. Let's see if the blank is in the correct spot first. Let's load the helicopter. We'll grab the blank. Okay, so that is in the correct spot. All right. All right, so that's where that needs to be. So one thing I was thinking of the pendulum is essentially having an arm hanging down that can grab the hard point of the container to keep it as kind of compact as possible. And so I need a relay in there. So I want it free swinging, and part of the problem is to make it free swinging. Um, I need to drop the power off of the pivot point, or I need to like do something like a rope or something to drag it back up. Figure what I want to do here. We might be able to get this to work with a connector. Because I can energize and de-energize a connector. Well, let's figure this out. I need the center of gravity at the center of gravity, so that's pretty much where it has to be there for actually holding it. So all right, and so those are our two pivot points there. I think what we'll do is we'll hard connect this. Could use a hinge if I'm not gonna power it at all. Yeah, we could use a hinge if I'm not gonna power it at all, which I'm thinking I might not. So let's go ahead and try that first. Try to keep it simple. The problem is I can't start it in a rearward position if I use a hinge, so let's not use a hinge. Use pivots. So I'll kind of show you what I'm conceptualizing here. So essentially this is going to hang out long over the tail, and then this is going to drop down and it's going to connect to the going to connect down to a container, and it's going to be like a swing arm, so like a hard swing arm. I have to think about how I want to raise this back up. So one thing I could do is a winch. The other thing is I could cut the electrical power to these, and then they'll swing, or they'll raise up when I want to. And I think that's probably better, is to have them raise up when I want them to. So that's going to mean hard point. All right, so that will hang down, and then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to use the electricity sometimes on this, but I got to put a place for a relay and a bunch of other crap. So I got to build up kind of a box in there. To be able to put microcontrollers in and a relay. Especially this build's going to like to have extra fuel whenever it can, so I might make it so I can put some fuel in there, but I doubt it on this one. I just need to be able to put a little bit of logic in there. And I need to be able to put a relay in there. Again, the relay is huge. It's 3 parts, 3 pieces. Doing some more stacking stuff would be fantastic if they could get that done so that we could have less. Because so the way this works is this will work as a bearing if it has. If you shut the electricity off to these, they'll free dangle. If they're powered, then you can move them. So I'll make a quick test stand to kind of show you kind of the plan here. All right, so let's do a toggle. That's going to be for the relay. Relay. That will be for the hard point. It's the hard point there. And then we'll do a throttle. So that will go there. That will go there. This will go up to there. Yep. And this will go over to here. That will go to release there. And then this will be the relay toggle. All right, good. So, right, so right now if we look at these, they should not be powered. They're not powered. So because they're not powered, when I go ahead and disconnect the hard point, that's because the strength is up. I gotta drop the strength here. Alright, it falls and it will dangle. Then when we go ahead and turn the relay on, problem is I need that to be strength a little bit. This is weird. I was thinking rope. Shit. And that's why I was thinking rope. Crap. Might just do rope instead. Because I'm going to have to decrease the power so much on that. It's going to be obnoxious anyway. And so what we'll do here is get rid of the relay and get rid of a bunch of bullshit on this and a bunch of control nonsense that's just going to add fluff to it that I'm not really wanting. Because I don't have my control set up yet for this, so it's just going to add a bunch of nonsense. And that's there. And then let's go ahead. That's hardpoint. That's fine. Relay's gone now. That's gone. These go to just no strength on them at all. And then this will be up, down for the winch. Power all this crapolas. That doesn't go there because it's a battery essentially. These two could actually be one battery's fine. That'll give us a little extra residual power in there. Those are going to be unpowered, and then these need to be powered up. So that's fine. That will release that. That will go there. All right. So there's the other idea. Let's go ahead and... Are we not in the custom game? Hope I saved. So if we drop this... essentially loosen that out, and then that will connect the containers. And then we reconnect the hard point with the winch, pulling it back up. That's an option. Piston's another one that I kind of like, but the rope's going to have more flexibility, I think. I want to kind of get this idea tested before I have to go. I wish I could hide those pipe connections. That would be the connection for the Alright, good. I'm going to test proof of concept of how hard is it for me to go hook up to the sucker. So that's going to be the main thing to start with. And then what we'll do is we'll delete this. And that's an easy add back. And then I'm just going to go ahead and we'll disconnect the rope for now. Let's say... All right, good. Then let's fix this up so that it can just be launched without having to put any logic into it right now. That's good. All right, let's go ahead and copy everything. Grab the vulture. Let's get out of this save here. How's our money looking? Money's looking good. Let's go ahead and save this world up. Let's get our custom game going here. And then we'll go try to grab one. So this is going to kind of dangle down below the helicopter, and it will stow behind us. We're hoping to be able to drop this down, snatch a container, and then kind of dangle and have it hang below us. See how this works for us. Really? You gotta be shitting me. Alright. Didn't... Oh, because I switched saves, that's what it is. It's in the autosave, though, that's fine. Alright, that should be sitting down below. It is. Alright, that's good. Make sure the landing lights come on. They do. Okay, good. We got landing lights now. All right, let's put the gear up. Don't need the gear up, but the gear coming up. All right, good. So that dangles below, and that's gonna grab to containers. A part of, we talked about this when I was first building the helicopter, the pendulum. The lower you can get that center of gravity, right, the longer the pendulum arm, the helicopter is going to always want to self-right because the container is so far down, it has such a long arm that it gives it essentially more mass, and so it is more resistant to movement, and it wants to pull the helicopter to be straight at all times, and so it makes it so that it has a righting effect, essentially. Like, part of it, too, is I'm going to make a multi-function monitor panel, and one of it will be a screen for all of the controls for these modules. And so you'll be able to do touchscreen. So instead of having 9 million different buttons, so essentially what I usually do is like function 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I could do it where it has its own Lua page for each one of these, too, which would be kind of cool. That was close. I was forcing it too much to try to grab here. You know, this needs to be reasonably easy for it to grab where it's not a big pain in the ass. Putting a camera on there helps because I can see exactly first person where it's at. I'll see how much of a pain in the ass this is going to be to grab that hard point. That's where the connectors are easier just because they're, you know, they kind of magnet when they get close. And with a camera, we can see exactly like where it is in relation to the container. Like now, I'm having to go third person, do a lot of guesswork. Or with the camera, I can see like, all right, just a touch to the right, much easier. I think I need to go out there and get the hard point. I don't know if the hard point is de-energized or not. Let's look. Launched false, so no, that should grab. Let's just, for extra peace of mind, we'll do that. But it's not showing, yeah, it's not showing launched, so it, all right, good. I don't know why I want to do this from the front. Doing it from the back, all of my stuff's not inverted, so it'll be easier. It's like putting a camera on one side of the pendulum makes it so that I should be able to line it up a little bit easier. See it from the cockpit, but going and trying to grab one spot is tough. So I don't want to get too in depth in this before I realize, am I even going to make this work where it's not a pain in the ass? And it could work, but just it's a pain in the ass to go use. So keep that in mind as well. And this is with like no wind. So there we go. All right. The other nice thing with hardpoint, see how it's bouncy? Anywhere there's bounce, it could cause some problems, but it's also, it's less likely to cause catastrophic problems because it has some flexibility in its movement. And so, like, I'm going to let go of it real quick here in third person. All right, my hands are off the controls. Because it has that underneath it, and it has a long lever arm, it's going to really help us to stay stable. Because if I try to, so right now it stopped us pretty well. Let's go to the right. See how hard it is for me to push that container out? Because it has a long lever arm, it's heavy. And it's going to help me by swinging back. And because there's a long pendulum, it's going to take fewer oscillations for it to straighten up. So see how quickly it straightens up? I'm going to take off auto hover. All right, that's off now. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to the right, and it's going to try to swing back. As I bring it back, oh, shit. It's going to do fewer oscillations. So I'm going to do all the corrections that the auto hover would do. I'm going to just try to keep myself straight. And that container is going to swing itself back and forth trying to right us. So it makes it much easier to right with that like it is. All right. So effectively, the longer the arm, the more stable it is. Because it takes a lot of force from the helicopter to push it up or to roll it off to the side. So it fights you the whole time you're trying to upset it. So it's inherently stable. One of the reasons why I wanted to work with this pendulum is for accuracy's sake. So if we had a camera underneath and I could see what we're doing, and we're looking right down the container, so there'll be a camera underneath it at some point. And so, like, let's say I want to put it on the middle stripe of the 3-stripe. It's pretty much directly connected to me, so as I yaw, it yaws the same time I do. It's not like a rope where it's going to be a pain in the ass. So theoretically, I don't like loading my ships with helicopters. But like theoretically, I'm trying to get it where it's accurate enough you can put it right where you want to. And actually, let's do this. Instead of doing this screwery, let's go try to double stack a container. me know if the game volume gets too loud too. I upped it a little bit because like you couldn't hear anything. If it's too loud, let me know. Alright, we'll try to double stack it on that yellow, oops, the yellow, not oops, what is it? The one up front there, you can see it. This one right at my nose. Yep. Because see how when I yaw, it yaws, it doesn't keep yawing for days like it would with a rope. It makes it a little bit easier and more quick for me to hopefully screw this stuff. And stack them on a ship or something, whatever I want to do. I gotta let it stop oscillating for a minute here. I gotta energize both containers here, so stand by. Let's see if I can land with... Oh, 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 don't do it, you sucker. Don't do it, you sucker. Alright. I'm gonna see if I can put it down and land with it below me. Let's try that. I probably need a much longer arm for that. I know I need a longer arm for that, but let's see. I'm hurting for... I'm definitely hurting for cameras. Okay, yeah, so that's going to be tough to... I'm not going to be able to land once it gets down. I lose a lot of control when I do that because of the hard connections, so that could be a problem. So, again, good proof of concept in here. I don't know if it's going to work for me because of that hard connection. It's going to want to be more stable sitting on the ground, of course, than me in the air. And so me counteracting and fighting that once it's on the ground is going to be very hard. Where with a rope, I can go slack and then land next to it, so... That's something to keep in mind. So like what I was trying to do is put this down and then just go straight ahead of it and kind of rotate down and put this on the ground. But you notice how I wanted to go to the sides because I'm hard pinned to the ground now and my rotors aren't going to have the strength to fight the ground. So like I'm going to put this on the ground and then I'm full left rotor and I can't make any movements until I pick it back up because I don't have any knuckle going left right. So this probably is not a great idea. It was interesting, but I don't see, like right now I have no control of that unless I try to lift myself up. So that's not gonna work, which is fine, just not gonna work. All right, it's out there. There it is. All right. Large shipment of eggs. Yeah, it's going to get broken. Let's see. Yeah, so a rope, you're not going to have that problem because the rope is going to be able to go slack. This never goes slack, which is problematic. It would need to be able to flex in every direction, which is going to cause a bunch of oscillation with the game. Not terrible, but it's going to cause problems. So this is one module I already built that it functions a little bit better. I gotta get going here in a minute, but let's see. I already did a proof of concept of this. With this module. This is a container module here, and I gotta, let's see. All right, so this is how you orient them correctly. So, all right, so now it's where it belongs, right? So then you go back in, you load up that module, this one here. All right, so now this is its new position right there. All right, and you can paste that, and then you just delete off the other one. And now this will start in the correct position for the, so that I don't have to keep moving it every time I try to load it in. And the benefit of having the, those connectors, and then we want to save it over the top of it. Now I'll be in the right position. The benefit of those connectors is that they magnet a little bit to help us with alignment. It's got a little fuel tank in there with some jet fuel in it that helps give us some extra fuel. So like, let's go play with a container real fast, then I'm gonna jump off. Yeah, so now you'll see the module is in the correct position right off the bat. We don't have to screw with it. This is also a hell of a lot easier to connect. Like, you'll see, this will take me like 10 seconds to connect here, so. It's going to be much easier to connect now, and I can see it better. So it was a neat idea doing a pendulum, but I just don't think it's going to work well. And you can see the danger of it when, as soon as that container touches the ground, it has much more friction than my rotors are going to be able to counteract, because it doesn't have any flexibility in that left-right direction. And so it's hard, and it's going to just slap me into the ground. So I'd have to put another pivot point in there. All right, so we're going to put the gear up. It's one of the reasons the gear are built the way they are. I actually want to land first. Let the gear back down. I gotta activate a container here. And because I can see these little connector points here, it makes grabbing much easier. So let's go ahead and we'll zero that out. And so coming in on the acres here, I can see just barely where that connector is. So I'm going to come in diagonally like this. All right, so now I can see where my purple connector is. And I'm just aiming for that left, or that right connector rather. And just try to keep even. Alright, so I'll switch to the left one now. And if I have a camera that's shooting straight down, I'm looking for the cross on the top of the container. There we go. Alright, we're oriented now. Just bring the up gears down. That's why it popped up like that, was that nose wheels touching. There we go. Yeah, Infinite Wisdom of Reddit again was like, oh, put it underneath. It's like up in here, it's like, it's not big enough. You don't understand the purpose of it, you scoundrels. And then eventually, like I said, I'm going to make a multi-function panel so that whatever module is attached, it will then I'll be able to control it. So there's a couple ways to do this. One is with different function keys, so like function, say 1 through 10, and then you assign the microcontroller on here to then say, okay, 10 is this, 9 is this. Or what you do is you make it so that it has its own Lua for each module, and then that puts up a new page. And so, for example, maybe you only have one function on there, detach, or two, you know, and maybe it has a picture of a container, and then it has a camera with the overlay of where your connectors are in comparison to the camera view. You know, that would be neat. And then you click on the screen to disconnect. So that would be a fun project to do as well. That's why I like doing some of these modules, is they're fun. All right, there we go. We got another one. So this was pretty easy to grab, much easier to grab. So it was an interesting test, but I think this one's definitely better to work with. And so, like, I'd be able to look at the screen, see my alignment, and then you just come down, and then drop it on the ground. Click the button to detach, fly off to another one. So. You can see how this is much easier and quicker to work with than the pendulum. Which one? Was it this acres? I can't see the green yet. That's it. Yep, acres. Not being aggressive enough, pulling back on the yoke. There's my alarm to finish up. I still got a little time, but kill that in a second. Here, let me kill my alarm. I gotta turn down the sensitivity on some of the axes on that gyro. It's overcorrecting, and so I gotta slow that down so it's smoother. Definitely a camera is more helpful. Like, I can just focus on one point, like the center of the container. Come directly down in the center of the container. Right here, I gotta kind of conceptualize in 3D where my points actually are and how far away I am, and like know the distances, and so it just makes it a little bit harder. There we go. All right, bingo, we're up. Put it between the two containers. Yeah, I'm liking it. It's working well. So. All right, guys, let's go ahead. I'm gonna take a pic, and then I think we'll finish up here. All right, very nice. Let's go ahead, and I'm gonna check some quick chat. I'm gonna work on the Lua myself. I appreciate the help, but the only way I'm gonna learn is do it myself. So. You know, if I have pointed questions, I'll ask you, but I need to just work on it myself. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you're new and you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. I appreciate the offer there, Rasmus. Yep, I'll definitely ask some questions if I need any help. But, again, if you guys like the video, give it a like. If you're new and you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. I'll see you guys next one.